Let's do a tier list for every key game in the Big Ten this season, from could be sneaky good to appointment television. Starting with some games that could be sneaky good, we've got some dangerous trap games for some of the top contenders. Penn State traveling to Iowa, Oregon traveling to Iowa, Penn State and Oregon both having to go to Rutgers, Michigan going to Nebraska. There's some critical games in there where the teams that are at home are going to get overlooked, but they're going to have an opportunity to pull off a crazy upset. Let's kick things up a notch to the key swing games this season. Rutgers at Minnesota, a couple of underrated teams definitely being overlooked in the middle of the conference. The winner of that game could springboard that to a better season. Purdue at Northwestern, kind of figuring out where the pecking order lies in the bottom tier of the conference. Michigan at Michigan State, the Spartans and Wolverines both going to be having a lot riding that game, and it's a rivalry game just like UCLA at USC, where a lot's going to be there implication-wise, even if there's not conference standings implications. Iowa at USC, another big battle between a couple of teams hoping to vault into the top tier of the conference. And then Nebraska at Maryland. It's just an interesting, tough little road game there for Nebraska against a Maryland team looking for a bounce-back season after a disastrous year. But what about some of these big-time matchups? Ohio State travels to play an Illinois team that is riding high off of a great season, and Illinois also has to travel to Seattle to play a marquee matchup versus Washington. The Huskies hoping to have a breakout year this year after a rough year one under Jed Fish. Iowa involved in a lot of these ones versus Minnesota and Nebraska hosting Indiana. There are some big games on the Hawkeye schedule this season and some big-time matchups there. And then Wisconsin at Minnesota. The rivalry game alone makes that a big-time matchup, but we'll see if Wisconsin may be having a resurgent season and Minnesota can live up to some of this offseason buzz they've got. Those other games are big, but these ones are must watch. We start with Washington traveling to the Big House to play Michigan. It's going to be the third year in a row these two programs have faced. I think they're both going to be flirting with contention this season. Oregon has to travel to Seattle after beating up Washington last season. The Huskies will have revenge on their mind during rivalry week. USC travels to play Illinois. Such a huge matchup early in the season to determine the complexion of both of those teams' seasons, especially Illinois at Indiana. Another one that essentially has some of the same stakes there. Both teams hoping to have repeat great seasons. It's early in the year. And then Michigan at USC. It was a classic last season when those two teams faced, and another year where both of them are going to be probably preseason top 25 and flirting with being in Big Ten contention status. Every year, though, this conference has some games that are appointment television. Oregon at Penn State, two top-tier conference contenders, a rematch of the Big Ten title game. Penn State at Ohio State is going to be cinema. It's a year where Penn State is all in. This should be their year. Ohio State going to be at home, though. Ohio State at Michigan. Can the Buckeyes finally end their drought against the Wolverines? And then a couple that I think are probably a little bit lower in the tier, but still appointment television. Indiana has to go at Oregon and at Penn State. Going to be a huge test for the Hoosiers that are hoping to have another great season. You trust their portal evaluations at this point. Can they get those wins on the road versus two extremely tough opponents? Let me know down in the comments, which of these key swing games are you most excited for?